I call myself a radical hope fiend. I have been since, I know that there is a point in time in my own human journey where we're going to live in a much more unified existence.
Yay.
And I don't know what that looks like, but I know, in having been to the other side, having already died, and I was dead for 3 minutes, just to backtrack on that. There was a glimpse into me being an old woman, and there were many children sitting at my feet, and I was telling them stories, and that we were living in a very functional, loving, supportive community.
Aww, yay.
And that's the seed thread that I hold on to, in the awareness of, like, that's what I'm striving towards. Whatever that means, however we get there, is I believe that we're here to build community. The word community is an invitation. Come unity.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Got chills again. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I never thought about that word.
Yeah.
That way.
So as we're in a state of our own unity consciousness, we create that magnetic resonance to attract other people who are in our same alignment. This is 528 hertz. If I had one next to me and I banged this one would start vibrating.
Yeah.
So as we are in our own unity consciousness, we become the invitation. Come unity. And be with me together, and let's just joyfully share a meal or dance together or be the resistance simply by being joyful. Adults have a difficult time holding the vibration of joy. Joy shows up in our solar plexus.
Yeah.
We hold a lot of angst in that space. We can only hold joy for so long. It's like a hot potato in our hands. Children, they can hold joy for forever. So how do we reclaim our ability to be in a space of childlike joy with our adult wisdom? And that's like something that I really try to work for.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I'm stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together.
And I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we're here with Shannon, also known as Mama Zuma. Shannon?
Hello, I'm just really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thank you
We're
for
so
being
glad
here.
to have you today. And for our audience, join us as we sit down with the extraordinary Mama Zuma, an indigo soul and master of elemental alchemy, shamanic practices, and sound healing. In this transformative session, discover how she weaves together guided visualization, energy work, shamanic journeying, and more to craft personalized path to self sessions. Whether you're seeking healing, empowerment, or a deeper connection to your true self, Mama Zuma's powerful techniques, including EFT Tapping, PEMF, Breathwork, and plant medicine, offer a sacred journey to rediscover your inner light. Don't miss the chance to explore the ancient wisdom and modern practices that can help you consciously shape your life. Tune in and begin your 21-day journey to be a more present and vibrant you. Mama Zuma, thank you so much. That's such a cool resume.
Welcome.
Wow.
Thank you. I was like, wow, that
Sounds
that
good,
came
right?
off our website. Yeah, that was good. Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I feel like I have so many questions already, but is there any place anybody wants to start? All right.
Well, I can share how I, found Mama Zuma on TikTok. And
Sure.
so the video that kind of inspired me to add her to the list of potential guests was of her speaking on her journey growing up with medication. And I guess I could have asked you if you were comfortable speaking on that prior, but it is on TikTok, so I guess. But you can, if you want to start with that and how how nature played a part in your, I guess. I'll let you speak more on it.
Yeah, no, I prefer to live as an open book because I think I spent so much of my early years living in shame and secrecy with a lot of what had happened to me, that in coming into a place of self-acceptance, I prefer to be transparent, because I think when we have extraordinary life experiences and we can share those from a place of like just unabashedly wanting to connect with other human beings and make it safe to have had extraordinary experiences, it allows other people to just, that's a bridge of connection. And I think that that is part of my path, is being transparent with all of the traumas and trials and, things that have guided me to be who I am today. So that particular video I was speaking about, I had a near-death experience when I was 10 years old, and I can jump right into that just to give some background.
Wow, I can't even believe that. Like, for some reason, I don't know why the medication and the transition, but yes, you had a near-death experience.
It led to that. So when I was 10 years old, I was quite literally sitting in my art class and got a blast of pain through my spine that never went away. And it just got worse and worse and worse. My mother was a nurse, so she would get home from work at 11 o'clock at night. So I waited for her to get home. And then I was like, I'm in unbearable pain. You have to take me to the hospital. I don't know what's wrong. We got to the hospital and they did x-rays. They took blood tests and discovered that I had a staph infection in my spine.
Oh, wow.
They had no idea where it came from. So they gave me antibiotics, and it progressively got worse, and it morphed into some sort of blood disorder that they didn't even really know what it was. They didn't know what was going on with me. So they transferred me to another hospital. This was December 20th, 1986. I was 10. At this other hospital, the doctor very nonchalantly sat at the end of my bed and was like, "We don't know what's wrong with you. We don't know how to fix it. You're terminal. You're going to die."
Oh my God. That must have been so scary.
That's a lot to drop on.
It was very yeah. And I don't think that they were like very trauma informed back then. Like there was no supports. I was just kind of like, but the thing is, like, I was in such excruciating pain. I had a blood disorder. So I felt like I was like burning from the ends. Like my entire blood felt like it was on fire.
Oh my God.
So,
ow.
I have these two dueling emotions at this time of like, I don't want to be in pain anymore. But I was like, what the fuck? Every time somebody would come into my space in the ICU, I would be mad that they got to live, right?
Wow.
I was having massive resentment towards like, I never got to do X, Y, Z. I'm only 10 years old.
Yeah, sure.
It progressively got worse and worse. And then, all my family came in to say goodbye to me. The priest from my church came and read me my last rites.
Wow.
And gave me like this exquisite black velvet rabbit with like a pocket watch timepiece. And I was like, I'm dying. What is, and he was like, no, this is for you to be buried with. So I'm like,
what?
Yeah, that's another story in and of itself. That's like
too soon for real. # too soon.
Right?
What is happening right now?
Like,
jeez.
So and then he like insisted that I confess all my sins because I was going to go to purgatory if I didn't. I'm like trying to make up things that I felt
to
were
the
sinful.
trauma experience.
Yeah, right. It was so.
I am so sorry that you went through that. That is crazy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So on the morning of December 23rd, a doctor came into my bedroom or the space and said, "Listen, you're dying anyway. But I think that we could try this experimental treatment with you where we're going to put a pump in your heart. We're going to drain your blood and give you blood transfusions. And we think that might flush out the infection.
Oh, wow.
Also could make you go into cardiac arrest and you could die like on the spot. Are you ready to die today?" Like that was like the question that he presented. And he was like, "It's your body. And I wanted to give you the opportunity first before I talk to your parents." because I wanted you to make the choice.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That was respectful.
So basically, it was go through this procedure, you know, or okay, don't do the procedure and you die anyway if we do nothing. But there's a chance.
Right. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
so I
you
could
know, this whole
naturally
thing
just like
a 10-year-old. I don't know.
10-year-old. Yeah. Yeah. It was. I was like, well, I'm willing to try anything. So they had to like numb me from the neck down, but they had to keep me conscious so I didn't go into cardiac arrest.
Okay.
And they put a pump called a Swan, I think it was called, in my heart. And, you know, in the midst of that procedure, I heard myself flatline. And, you know, there was just a lot of confusion because they were coming for the paddles. And then I was above myself, like watching them do the paddles on me.
Okay.
And in being out of my body, the lightness of my being was exhilarating. Like there was no transitional point of like, oh, I'm dead. It was just kind of like, wow, that's me. And then there was like floating. And then I was in a space that I can only relate as like a train station with what I call a being of light. Okay. The being of light, there was no verbalization. It was all just understood. And there was another little girl there with me who had been in the ICU also. She and I were holding hands. Wow. As soon as we held hands, I knew her entire story. I understood who she was as a person. There were no questions that needed to be conveyed. We just knew each other.
Wow.
And her name was Maria. And Maria and I were in this place. And we could kind of ask any questions that we wanted to ask. I felt like I was there for a very long time. There were understandings about the idea of a soul contract, agreeing to come here into this human incarnation, recognizing that I was choosing to come as a healer to help humanity transition, and that I decided that I wanted to come into understanding early because I wanted to observe the whole process. Like I was almost like spiritually cocky about it, right? And I was amused by this because that's very much my personality, even at a young age. But there came a point in time, like many things were coming through to me. And I understand this in the concept of downloads now. Like, it's almost like I was given full books, and then the letters of the alphabet of those books. And I had to like decipher and dismantle that. It took me a very long time to like assimilate that information after the fact. But in that period of time, these understandings are coming to me. And then there came a point where Maria and the being of light, were kind of going one direction, and I was feeling myself pulled back in the room. I was starting to hear the sounds of them in my room.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go away from where they were. I didn't want to come back into my body. And the being of light touched me on my heart and conveyed to me that I was completely healed. There was no I didn't want to go back into the pain, right? I didn't want to go back into the suffering. And the being of light was like, no, you're fully healed.
Wow.
Back into the mission you go, jump back in. And I felt sucked back into my body and immediately started, there was a big gasp, like, as I came back in, and all the doctors stood back startled. And I started trying to pull out all the, the IV tubes and all that stuff. And they sedated me. The next thing was the very next day. Now, if you can, I'm waking up. It's Christmas Eve day. I've just had this intensely crazy experience and I'm fully healed. So I'm like elated on cloud 9, joyful child. Like, okay, doctors are coming in and I'm like, yeah, can I go home now? Like, it's going to be Christmas tomorrow. I'm super psyched. And they were like,
a Christmas miracle.
What?
They're like, girl.
Like, no. I went to a train station and a being of light healed me. And I'm on a soul journey. I made a soul. And they were like, send her up to the psych ward. Like, Somebody did come in to talk to me to like, you know, try to break down the experience. And every single person I talked to, I was speaking from this like elated, joyful place. Like, can't you celebrate the fact that I just like miraculously like healed from all these things? Like, why do you people not understand that this is real? No, being of light healed me. Like, I just want to go home. And that was it, like they were doing everything so slowly. It was driving me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And having to explain this to people because it was so matter of fact to me, they kept me in the hospital for several days afterwards, which was very annoying. And then I went home. And at that point, I wanted to pray with people. I wanted to be like I wanted to quit school and become a nun, like all of these things. And my parents could not handle it. They were like, no, you're going back to 5th grade. Like,
settle down.
yeah. And that would be the thing. We'd be in the middle of a grocery store and I would just wander off and find this old woman who felt sad. And I would ask her if she wanted to pray with me. And my mother would come around the corner and see me praying with this woman. And
wow,
be like, you got to stop doing this to people. It's really like, I'm like, it's driving you crazy, not the people. I'm here to help these people. Right.
Yeah.
So that turned into me being sent to a therapist who was very old school. She was very like, your brain made that up when you're in a state of trauma. We make up these things and you made that up. And I came into a realization over like maybe like 6 months after this experience happened that they didn't even have the capacity to understand what happened to me. Like, I was shown something that they didn't even have the ability to understand.
That's right.
And this made me look at life very differently than everybody else. So I had a soul fragmentation in that period of time where one part of me was like, you live in the forest and you dwell with the spirit beings and you're a 5th grader and you like are going to study social studies and do all the good things so that nobody questions anything. So I had 2 different personas.
Okay.
And I learned to be a character in this one.
Okay.
And that character became very dark and manipulative from age 11 until, you know, through my teenage years. Wow. That's when I started being heavily medicated. I got put on mood stabilizers, antidepressants, sleep medication, just.
Sounds like the whole gamut.
Yeah, very heavily medicated, like completely disassociated from reality. And became very violent. I would get in fights and I was just like, how many people can I learn to manipulate? Like I really became like that was like my villain era. Okay. And then I reached a point where I was just like the bridge between my reality, my truth that I could not share with anybody because nobody believed me. And then my resentment towards, well, fuck that. If I can't even live my truth, I'm going to be deceptive. I'm going to own deception as my like
identity almost
being, right?
Yeah.
And that something snapped in the cord between those two. And I decided that there was no place left for me here in my human story. And I decided that I was going to end my own life on my 17th birthday. Okay. It felt very poetic. And I didn't see a way to get past, you know, to fuse that space back together again. So I had a slumber party with all my friends leading up to that and videotaped everything because I wanted to leave behind a joyful experience for everybody to remember me by. And like wrote many notes to all of my friends and family and had them in my bedroom. And then I just like on the night of my 17th birthday took, you know, I took a lot of my sleeping pills and chased it with a 5th of vodka and just passed out. And I woke up in a puddle of my own like puke and was like, I even fucked that up. So I checked myself into a mental institution. I checked myself into the Brattleboro Retreat, which is one of the oldest mental institutions in the country. The movie Sucker Punch was filmed there.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
But I got to the
that's
mental
the one with all the girls. Sorry.
with all the girls.
It took me a second. I'm like, wait a minute. I know that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but that movie came out, and the woman who was her therapist was like a mirror, even image-wise, to my therapist. Like,
Oh,
she
wow.
looked exactly like that woman.
Whoa.
Okay.
So that movie's very like surreal to me. But anyways, my parents fought me on going into this mental institution too. Like, this is gonna shame the family, and I went under the guise of like drug addiction, because even that they couldn't even like, I don't want to live anymore. Well, suck it up. Just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And so when I got to Breathwork retreats, my caseworker, my therapist, it was the first time I told anybody everything.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm like, I'm here. I'm just going to
You're thinking it's a safe place, right?
Yeah. And he believed me.
Oh, he did.
And he believed me, and he also explained, he's like, I think you're an indigo child. Like, there was a wave of indigo children that came to the planet.
I just got chills, full body chills.
In the 70s, and that's part of what my work is here, is a lot of you guys end up here. So, yeah. And so, many people have really negative experiences in the mental institution. Mine was not. The opposite was true. It was like the first place I felt safe to speak my truth. And I told him, I want to come off all my medication. Like, for the first time in my life, I don't want to be on medication. I want to see what it feels like just to be alive.
Okay.
Wow.
And he supported this. He weaned me off of everything I was on. I became like a very straight edge vegan, no chemicals, person. And so that was that. I left that. I went to a halfway house after that program. And then I went to a foster home after that, because just things got crazy with my parents. And I was about to like move to California and just get my GED. And my mother showed up at my foster home one day and was like, I want you to finish school. I want to patch up our relationship, blah, blah, blah. And that was its own journey in and of itself. But after I finished high school, I got super into psychedelics and the Grateful Dead. And that put me on the path to like shamanic study. And I ended up moving to California and then to Hawaii. And that's kind of how all of that unfolded. I started studying plant medicine in Hawaii, and that was where I kind of came into the concept. Like, what I practice is what I call elemental alchemy.
Okay.
I work with the awareness that I am working with the elements, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, from the understanding that everything in the known universe is made of molecules.
Okay.
All those molecules vibrate at a specific speed and frequency. They come together to make cells. Those cells all come together to make all of our elements and all of our body systems. Our body systems can only speak elemental code, through the electromagnetic and the electrochemical systems of our nervous and our endocrine system. So we're really just like high functioning emotional computers.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that.
Yeah. High functioning emotional computers. That puts it into perspective, huh? Jeez.
Yeah. So when we can get a handle on the reality that our bodies are vessels for the elements to come through, and we read the cellular code of anything that we consume, and we can only respond to the cellular codes that we're consuming. We can only respond through the default programming that the cellular codes have embedded in our body systems. So I practice connecting with the elements, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, and using frequencies to kind of override the default programming and to get all the cells into a state of homeostasis. Once the cells are realigned to a state of homeostasis, it kind of like things kind of like take care of themselves after that. Kinks kind of work themselves out, right?
Yeah.
You have a kink in the garden hose and you straighten it out, the water flows again.
Right.
If you have kinks in your body systems and straighten those out, like the water flows again. And when you can feel that flow state, you don't want to go back to you don't want to kink the hose again, right?
Right, yeah.
So my objective in working with people, I'm a big fan of making micro adjustments to get into those states of homeostasis. And from there, you become your own innate healer. Like, I'm just a guide to realign yourselves, to refamiliarize yourselves with that state of homeostasis. And that comes from knowing every 50,000 different ways to fuck up.
Yeah.
That's how I came into what it is that I do now.
Amazing.
Wow.
Long story.
I love that story. I love your journey.
I respect your journey so much.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah,
I mean,
seriously.
sometimes you got to go through some really dark stuff in order to like really learn and understand and appreciate the opposite side of that. I mean, I really feel like we are eternal spiritual beings, like Leslie always says, having a temporary human experience. And before incarnating into these physical meat suits that our souls are hanging out in right now, we sign up for certain lessons, and our soul contract dictates how those lessons unfold. And you can either get hurt from them and wear them as a trauma wound and hang it around, lug it around your whole life, or you can recognize the lesson in it and be liberated from that and check that box off your soul contract list, right? Like,
exactly.
So you checked off a lot of boxes, probably. Wow.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of healers, they go through, or I guess they sign up for it, I guess, but you know, they do go through a lot of challenges and struggle, you know, and that in a way is how a healer is a healer. They have to go through it themselves.
Yeah.
To help other people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's 100% true. You know, I have always found it ironic that men become gynecologists. How can they know, right? So I think that there is a thing that, you know, doctors study healing and healers study darkness. And that is something I definitely, I've gone through many dark nights of the soul.
Okay.
And each time I come out with a new sense of awareness. You know, I started working with my shamanic mentor in 2017. And after a very, very dark night of the soul. And I knew that we were going through like this massive transition, like humanity was going through it, right? We were kind of gearing up from 2018 and 2019, knowing that 2020 was going to be a year where people were going to be given the gift of sight. Like we were going to get 2020 vision.
Take the blinders off, right?
Yeah. And so a lot of the work that my shamanic community was doing 2018, 2019 was preparing ourselves for that.
Oh, wow.
In the awareness that we were going to have to stay so deeply anchored into our truth. Because that's it, is that as the blinds were peeled back, the cognitive dissonance was going to cause many people to go into states of suffering, but also many people to come into states of like, okay, I'm ready to learn and explore and understand that. But the time leading up to that was excruciating. 2017 through 2019 was like very intense.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Well, as a light worker, thank you for holding down the fort during that time period, because I really do feel like 2020 was a time where the veil got peeled off of a lot of people's eyes, and all of a sudden people were looking around at the reality like, whoa, is this really what I thought it was this whole time? And a lot of people's constructs kind of crumbled. And I really do feel like the earth herself, along with all of us on it, are going through an ascension period right now. So thank you for holding down the light and acting as that anchor here on earth for that kind of energy.
Yeah, very much. I mean, that's what I signed up here to do. And,
literally.
Yeah. And, you know, the message that was coming through very firmly to me leading up to 2020 is like the awareness that the Merkaba of our own being is when our body, mind, and soul, those three facets of our being, are in alignment, when those can all come to the table and have a conversation. And many people on this planet will never get to that place, right? But you can invite body, mind, and soul to all sit down and be like, we're going to work as a team from here on out, and we're not going to be at war with each other anymore. We all are holding each other accountable to like be on this mission And then when your thoughts, your words, and your actions all line up, that's the Merkaba of balance.
Oh my
wow.
gosh. That is so synchronistic for me, because when I went to yoga, I learned a mantra that is Loka Samhasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which translates to, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way towards the happiness and freedom for all. And that just stuck to my soul, and I've never let go of that phrase. From the moment I heard it, I was like, oh, yes, all of that. Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's it. That's the code right there. That's the secret sauce, is like when you stop being at war with yourself, you reach a place of peace and understanding. And when we look at things like, oh gosh, what is it called? The hierarchy of needs chart, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So the bottom is basically associated with the root chakra, and that's like survival, basic human needs. And then the second layer up is like, your emotional needs, your fulfillment. I don't know them for certain, but here's the thing: is like in my own knowing, I know I need shelter, I know I need food, and I know I need to feel safe. And in knowing this for myself and knowing that this is my base level to just survive on this planet, how could I ever not wish that for every other person that I come in contact with?
Right.
Yes.
So as I'm operating from my place of supreme awareness of these are my needs, these are things I would never compromise on, these are my boundaries, I respect and understand that every single person deserves those. And how can I be in a space to be a bridge between the brokenness of our culture and society and helping people get to that place? Because the more people that come into that Merkaba of balance and equilibrium, the more of us gravitate together, and then we're collectively all helping our communities reach those places of equilibrium. Yay. Yeah. So that's what I think we're really transitioning into. I don't get into the narratives and the doom and gloom of like politics and things that are going on. And I've been accused before of like, no, that's bypassing. No, it's transcendence. I'm beyond that. And though I will show up and cast a vote, I don't believe it has any effect on whatever narrative is unfolding before us. In my own reality, I choose to live every moment in the present, because our soul can only exist in this now moment, right? It's the only place soul can reside. People get very stuck in their trauma journeys. I call it the woundscape. And that's a place where people live. The woundscape is not this present moment. It's like 1 foot in the past with what's happened, and then 1 foot in the future worrying about how that trauma is going to continue to show up and be present. So it's that same bridge that I had lived as a child into, the soul fragmentation that happens with trauma is that there's a part of us that is actually separated from the centralness of our being. And sometimes this resides outside of our body. Sometimes it's actually like in another locale, that's a complex thing that's somewhere else. But much of when people do journeying work with a shaman, it's to call back in all those fragmented parts of one's being, whether from this lifetime or any alternate realities that one's soul has been present. We're all in the here and now, kind of unraveling the threads of the human story and weaving them back together in a much more intentional and present way with all facets of the human story, not just the ones that are threads that are whitewashed, like false narratives of history. Like that's what we're doing right now, is we're kind of like in the cosmic rock tumbler, restringing the cosmic loom so that we can weave back together that story. And that's happening with the earth as well. Like I do a lot of work with plant medicine. I think a lot of the following that I've gotten on TikTok is I was working for a long time with a HellO tree that I would sit inside and meditate and kind of, get downloads from this tree, messages to kind of give people to help them.
Sure.
So
I am asserting the mastery of my life force. I align myself with the vibrational frequency of thriving, and I choose to use my free will to co-create a life of adventure, expansion, and harmonious balance with all sentient beings on the earth. I do this with reverence and great love. Aho.
But I like to communicate with the mycelium, I've been able to communicate with plant spirits since I was a little girl. Again, like that world of communication was very open to me from age 10 on. I kept a notebook with me at all times, and I would write down every single thing that I was curious about, everything that I ever said. I wanted to know the name of everything ever. I was a very precocious child, much to the chagrin of all the adults in my life.
I find that cool though. It shows that you had like this like recognition to the knowledge and wanting to be close to the wisdom of the trees and stuff. And I'm really fascinated with how you use plant medicine and sound healing and EFT tapping. I don't really know what PEMF is, so if you could school me on that, that would be great. But
Sure.
I'm just like really taken aback by the arsenal of healing modalities that you use for your clients. And I'm also curious about your 21-day program that you do with them. So can you walk us through the 21-day program and school me on PEMF, please?
Okay, so PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic field. I use a machine called a Qi coil. It's QI coil.
Okay.
And what it does is there's an app and it pulses the frequencies. So I primarily work with the solfeggio frequencies or Rife frequencies. So like if you've ever heard of a Rife machine.
Yes, I have.
Every single cell has a code, a vibrational frequency of homeostasis. So if I'm working with somebody who's, I use the pulse electromagnetic field machine underneath people, and then I go over their body with the tuning fork to do all of the 9 solfeggio frequencies. And we do a guided journey, getting into a state of communicating with them, their cellular memory from the moment of conception throughout the here and now.
Mm.
And the 21-day protocol that I do is not a one-size-fits-all. It's kind of what comes to me as I'm working with a client. And again, back to the micro adjustment theory, if I'm in a plane in Boston and I'm facing due west, I'm going to end up in San Francisco. If you move that plane 2 feet south, you end up in Washington, D.C. It's a huge difference from only 2 feet movement. The same is true in our own bodies. When we take those first 3 minutes of our day and claim those for ourselves, they want you picking up your phone. They want you disassociating and disconnecting. But from the moment you gain consciousness, if you can get into your elemental presence, if you can connect with your primal senses, you just claimed the sovereignty over your own energy and you become unfuckwithable. That is a word that I have stolen from Vishen Lakhiani, who is the founder of Mind Valley Academy.
Okay.
I'm totally going to use that.
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to use that.
He wrote a book. No, we don't have it here.
Unfuckwithable.
It's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, and it's about cellular codes. It's about the idea that we are these, kind of super emotional computers. But a lot of the theories of things that I work from come from that book and the awareness that we're coding ourselves every single day from the things that we consume, from the intentions that we set, and the actions that we take. So again, back to when our thoughts, our words, and our actions are in a state of alignment, we're living in the present now with our mind, body, and soul in a space of agreement. There it is. You're unfuckwithable in that moment. That's your armor shield. And that's when you are at the frequency of, that's when your magnetic resonance is connecting you with doors of opportunity, the people who need to be in your life, the things that, that's your path. And the moment that you get out of your own integrity and alignment, the glitch is there. You've done the glitch, right? So you're working at a job and you need the day off, but you're going to lie to your boss because it's easier than explaining, I need a mental health day. You're going to be like, I got a sore throat. I can't come in. There you go. You just tweaked yourself out of your alignment because the fear that your boss wasn't going to be capable of understanding the truth made you choose to lie, right? So it's little things like that that really our soul is like, what the fuck did you just do there? Like, why did you do that? So the more that you can take those brave moments and live completely in your truth, and these are the tests. Can I actually have this conversation with my friend and say the harsh truth? I am often that person, but I'm doing it because I know that I'm either guided that they need to hear that harsh truth and it's all going to work out afterwards. Or if I am not meant to intervene, I will have very clear, like something will come through to me in that moment. I did a training years and years and years ago with a woman named Christy Marie Sheldon, and she used to do a lot of the programming with Mind Valley Academy early on. I'm talking like early to mid 2000s. So she calibrated us. She does a program called Love or Above. So the Hawkins scale of consciousness is all of our magnetic resonances, right? When we operate from love or above, there's the unfuckwithable point, right? Love creates, we've got a cosmic shield around us. And when we're operating from love, love shows up in many different forms. So love can take the form of a mercy killer on the battlefield. Does not want to make that person suffer and takes them out of their, we put down animals when they're suffering. But we don't do this to humans. We want them to suffer for as long as humanly possible, right? So that act of love has a dark and a light side. And we're kind of getting to the grasp of that right now in the human story. The understanding that love is a multiplicitous, multicolored, multidimensional thing. And we very much watered it down. So anyways, the Hawkins scale of consciousness, when we're operating from that place, when we can be shining that, we're creating a magnetic resonance that shows up as a mirror to all the people in our lives, right? We're mirroring what they should be at. And we either trigger somebody, we trigger the fuck out of somebody in that moment, or we inspire them. And they need either lesson. Either lesson is right. So it doesn't, So the lower densities on the Hawkins scale of consciousness are all the things that we accumulate through having a false magnetic resonance. If I take a balloon and I rub it on my head, it's going to create a static electric charge. I can stick it on the wall, but every particle of dust is going to attract to that. Same is true when our soul being is out of alignment. We're creating a magnetic resonance. We're creating a magnetic charge. It's not in alignment with our highest good. So we have like all the wounded people magnetizing towards us, all the... If we get into people pleaser roles, all the narcissists are attracting to us. If we're, we want to fix everybody in our path, we're not paying attention to our own soul's journey. So when we're in that state of perfect loving alignment, all those lower densities fall away. In the same way that the charge runs out on the balloon falls off the wall. It's an immediate thing. That's why I think healing is happening on a quantum level at this time. And the thing is, like, people get to a place where they're like, no, I feel good now and I feel healed, but I've had this PTSD my whole life. Yeah, it's your attachment to that diagnosis. You're good. You're not doing all those trauma patterns anymore. Like, we're on a healing journey culture. Like, when a bone breaks, it heals eventually. When a soul fragments, it heals eventually. What's the end game? Like, is there a celebratory point where we're like, we're healed? Now what?
Right.
There's almost like the ego doesn't want to believe that we could ever reach that point. Like, we'll always be broken. There will always be trauma. If you're an alcoholic, you'll always need to go to AA meetings. Like, but what if miraculous healing is possible? And as somebody who was told they were going to die and then had complete spontaneous remission, I'm a deep believer in miraculous healing and instantaneous healing. And I think that can happen to anybody for anything on any level. And that is,
I think it's definitely like your belief in whatever you think, that it weighs heavy on the outcome of what you experience. I don't know who the quote's by, but it's like rather either even if you think you can or you think you can't do something, you're right, you know?
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there is a lot of spiritual bypassing, and there's a lot of false teaching in the spiritual community, because there are a lot of people out there practicing that they took a weekend long course in Sedona, and now they're embodied somatic, whatever the thing may be. And many people are gaslit and taken advantage of. And, well, why am I not manifesting? Well, if you're not writing down all your affirmations, you must be out of alignment. You must be in a negative vibration. And this causes a lot of pain and suffering in people. And there is work that you have to do to get in that space of alignment. You do have to become boldly honest with yourself. You do have to have the personal accountability to be like, you know what, I'm responsible for a lot of my own suffering. I'm making really bad choices because these are behavior patterns that I repeat. And so that bold honesty requires a lot of vulnerability, and
It's true. Yeah.
a lot of people,
It's like you have to take yourself out of victim mode and become accountable for the things that you're doing, and then follow them back to why you're doing them.
Yeah. Like if I'm working with a client who has horrible digestive issues, horrible.
Okay.
They've tried all the meds. They've tried all the things. I had one session. I was like, you need to quit drinking coffee. Like, you're waking up in the morning and drinking 32 ounces of coffee. You're burning up your entire intestinal tract. If you can rebuild your microbiome, you can weave the coffee back in later, but give yourself 21 days. 6 months, can't make it to 21 days. And I'm like, you're your own worst enemy here. I don't know what to tell you. Literally, that's what you need to do. And this is an internal battle with so many reasons as to why the coffee cannot be given up. And these are our own, that's again, back to when you can sit down your body, mind, and soul at the same table and be like, we all got to be on the same page if this vessel is going to thrive, because otherwise we're in decomposition mode, and it's only a matter of time.
Wow. This is such an amazing story, and I mean, your journey is so amazing. I could sit here and listen to you all day. I mean, literally. Yeah, I'm just blown away by all the wisdom, that you have already. So, all right. So with that in mind, without giving away anybody's name, what's been one of your clients' most profound experiences that they've had that you might be able to share with us?
Okay. I worked with a college professor, who very intellectual, very much. And this disclosure was given at the beginning of the session, that they had reached a point in their therapeutic journey and their healing journey that they were at a plateau, and they were just not budging.
Okay.
And the therapist suggested, so, when you break something in your body, you go to a doctor. When something is wrong in your mind, you're going to a therapist. But when it's a soul issue, that's where the shaman come in. And we have a rise of shamanic practitioners and shaman and people who are working with medicines. This is a massive reclaiming of all the things that were lost during colonization, of the disbursement of the human story as people were moved. And so this piece of cultural appropriation, who are you to practice that? How are you using this word? That's a resistance point in us, because we're denying a moment of reclaiming our own story and power, right?
I've never heard anybody bring that up. That's so interesting. I thought it, but I've never heard anybody speak on it.
See?
Yeah.
I told you.
So this particular therapist told my clients, I think what you're experiencing is on a soul level. And I'm only trained to do clinical work with you. I think you need to do shamanic journeying. I think you need to just try it. I mean, we've hit a plateau here. And so the client literally put Google and then, my area. And that is one of the services that I offer in the place that I work. I work at a It's an integrative multi-perspective clinic called Optimal Healing. Soul, and community. Those are the 4 pillars of our healing tenets. And I am the shamanic practitioner there. So client comes in, explains all of this to me, and is experiencing a very intense like block on the heart.
Okay.
Like can't emotionally feel.
Okay.
And they've gone so far into the logical mind that they've separated from the emotional body, right? So here we are again with getting mind, body, and soul back at the same table.
Okay.
Anyways, we do our journeying work session. I get into the sound healing portion and I lead people through guided energy work, a journey, whatever is, I gotta open myself to be the vessel for those words to come through. I step aside in that moment and allow myself to be used for their highest good.
Okay.
And although it is my own words, I am experiencing guidance. I'm seeing something like a movie unfold that is showing me things about their story or where their blockages are. And I'm just verbalizing these things as they come to me.
Okay.
As I'm guiding this person to connect to their emotional body, to connect, to feel again, to feel their own energy, to feel their own life force, they started laughing in the midst of this.
An emotional release?
They're just laughing, unabashed laughter. And I said, do you want to stop? And they said, no, I feel like tiny ants are crawling all over my body right now. I said, that's your energy field. That's your... we're just activating it gently in a way so that you can feel it again in a way that's safe. And once you get to be able to feeling that, that's when you're going to facilitate the invitation of the mind, body, and spirit to have the conversation. I'm just getting you back online. I'm plugging all your cords back in where you unplugged them.
Wow.
They agreed to continue on with the session. And I usually work people through something where they're going through activating all of their energy centers. And then when you get to the crown, which is the 1,000-petaled lotus, imagining 1,000 threads of light circling around every direction of your body, coming back in the bottom of your feet. So we're really turning the nervous system on. We're having the nervous system come online, connecting the nervous system and the endocrine system to get together and have a conversation because they've been operating separately, right? So that's what I work them through. And this experience of feeling their own energy, rubbing their hands together, pulling apart and feeling that magnetic, like little ball of energy that you get there. Like this was outside of what was explainable to this person.
They had to experience it.
And they cried also.
Wow.
And from the laughter to the crying, just getting into softening into that space of vulnerability, that was incredibly powerful for them. And objectively, I don't ever want to have to see anybody again. I'm not looking to build a client base. I'm looking to get people lined back up in that Merkaba, and they take it from there. I open up lines of communication with their spirit guides. I open up lines of communication with their ancestors, with any benevolent beings. In having had this experience with my blood, I work a lot with ancestral lineages. So in the awareness that we have in our DNA 12 generations of ancestral lineage. That's 4,094 human beings, information that we have in our own body.
Okay.
There's got to be 10, 15 of those that are lingering, going, no, I keep throwing you feathers on your path. You know, like you got a team of people around you, right?
That just happened to Leslie yesterday.
Literally.
And I keep thinking about the timelines and what Philip was saying, like listening to her, I'm just thinking timelines and then she says that. So funny. Yeah.
So really, I just open up that line of communication to be like, those little synchronicities that you're getting, the little tweaks that you're getting, the weird little feeling that you get in your belly, those are your guides trying to get your attention. And they can't intervene unless you ask them to. So I open up that line of communication, and I specifically ask for that to happen in the dreamscape, in the dream space, because that's the safest place for people to be communicated to.
Okay.
That happened in real space. You're just walking in the forest, and all of a sudden you see your great grandmother standing in front of you. You would lose your shit. We're not.
Seeing her in a dream is a tiny bit more acceptable, though, because you're dreaming, right?
Yeah, you're dreaming. That is an already like ethereal realm that you dwell in. So in opening up that line of communication, that becomes a safe place. And I tell them to create a routine before bedtime of saying, I welcome any communication. I feel safe. I'm in my bed. I'm ready to have this experience. And in whatever way that comes through, the more you do it, the more frequently that line of communication can happen. And so that's really what I'm doing with people. I'm not fixing anybody. I'm not doing anything. I'm recalibrating. I'm turning the radio dial where it's been on static back to the number it's supposed to be on. And from there, it's up to you to keep it on that station and let it all come through.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Sure.
What would you say is like your top favorite tools of divination to use during one of your sessions? Because I'm sure you have like a whole plethora of things, right? But like, what's your go-tos? What's your favorites and why?
I have decks that I use sometimes with people.
Oracle,
I love
tarot.
Yeah, I work with tarot with myself. I don't work with tarot with other people, and that's just my own personal preference, only because my relationship with it is so intimate in my own story that I don't want to it's just different for me to work with that with other people. So I use oracle decks. I use an oracle deck from the shamanic lineage so I went to Four Winds Academy, which is Dr. Alberto Vialdo and Marcela Lobos. They designed a deck that is based in our shamanic lineage. So that's it's focusing on earth, air, fire, water, spirit, and all of the guides that kind of work along with our shamanic lineage. I also love, there is an alchemy deck by Kim Kranz that's very comprehensive. Love that deck. It just has a lot of layers. And I think anytime that we can really do deep dives into the multiplicity of our experience, then that's those decks are really key for me. I love working with tuning forks with people. I always have a tuning fork with me anywhere that I am.
Oh, love that.
This is 528. That's my favorite frequency to work with. That's known as the miracle frequency. But the tuning forks and using oracle cards. I love working with animals. I work with plants. So the oracle deck that I work with that's animal based is by a woman named Allison Powers. She does a podcast called Ceremony Circle.
Oh, okay.
And I love her podcast. She is a shaman, and the deck is all animals. So oftentimes if people come to do a reading with me, I'll have them pick 3 cards from the elemental deck, just so I can get a flavor of kind of what the energy is around them. And then I have them pick an animal. And that is usually just what animal's energy is kind of surrounding the situation, or what animal is offering its assistance. And then I work with plant medicine. So that is a whole nother layer of it. So oftentimes in the protocols that I'll give people, there's plant medicines involved in that. I work a lot with mushrooms, both psychedelic and otherwise. And I work a lot with salt.
Okay.
Salt is magnesium. I'm a big fan of remineralization, and I think that that is a lot of what is I think we're purposely kept in a state of imbalance.
Me too.
And this is I'm in the process of writing a book right now.
Ooh.
A lot of what has come through to me from 2017 until 2020 is the concept of trauma codes. So these are codes that are deeply embedded in our being, that have been generationally embedded. But this is why people don't heal. This is why people get caught in patterns of behavior. You have to override that code because you're just staying locked into that.
Generational trauma, right?
Yeah, beyond the generational trauma. So let's say you have generational trauma, right? So let's imagine that's a cord that gets unplugged. And then what gets filled into that hole is a trauma code. So you can't even plug the cord back in if you wanted to. You got to remove the trauma code so you can plug the cord back in. And I'm going to use one thing as an example, and this is something that's super controversial, but this is a very intense one. We'll go back to the coffee. Coffee holds something called a slave code. Coffee, I know, we're going to do a deep dive here for a moment.
Okay.
Coffee is one of the plants that is enslaved on the planet, right? It's enslaved for human usage. In doing so, it has to have a layer of toxicity to keep it in that enslavement. So oftentimes when you see coffee, it says fair trade on it. What that means is that the corporation or the company that is manufacturing that ensures that the people are ethically treated who are harvesting the coffee. It doesn't say fair trade on it. What that means is that it's coming from a farm or a place that still enslaves human beings.
Oh.
When I discovered all of this, I was in a shamanic journey, and I astral projected to a coffee plantation. I don't know the particular country that I was. There was a child chained to the tree.
Oh my gosh.
And the child had to climb up and pick the coffee and come back down. And the child was just about to outgrow being able to climb up the tree. And the person who was in charge of the farm determined that the child was not nimble enough anymore and had outgrown it. That child, literally, the ankle cuff stayed on the child, and it was taken from the tree, and that child was sold into sex slavery.
Oh, for
no.
fuck's sake.
So these coffee beans hold that slave code. The hands that picked the coffee beans hated their life. They infused, so back to using the thoughts and words intentions, imagine those coffee beans are being infused with suffering, pain, sadness, right? They're all put into the back of a truck, and the heat of being in there kind of steeps that word magic. Molds form on the coffee, even that live beyond the roasting practice. Now you have to go through the entire journey of the coffee bean. You go from like this unethical coffee farm to having it brought to the roasting plant. None of these people love their lives. They're all angry. They're all trading in money. There's a lot of dark energy that these beans are surrounded by. So think of the concept of a magic potion, magic beans, Jack and the Beanstalk. These magic beans quite literally have dark energy on them.
Mm.
And this is how we start our day, is by the magic bean potion.
Wow.
And then we begin our day with that, right? We're not drinking cleansing water. We got to have this thing, the first thing. So we immediately take in that slave code. That's it. We've given away our sovereignty from the moment we take the first sip.
You are blowing my mind. And
Yeah.
I like literally can't help but take that same scenario involved lesson and apply it to what happens in factory farming, because it's the same thing.
Oh, I was thinking
It's the same thing. Those animals are generationally enslaved and abused and exploited, and murdered and whatever else. And it's just like a cycle. And when I tell people like you're literally consuming all of that trauma, they're like, I don't know if everybody just doesn't get it or doesn't want to get it or what, but the coffee bean scenario is the same thing with why I don't consume animal products from factory farms.
So pair that together with how is coffee served? It's served with milk, which is another substance that is embedded with trauma codes. So you have 2 liquid trauma codes. Now add in sugar. Sugar is another. It's a crystal.
It's a triple whammy of fuckery.
So there you go. It's always the triangle. It's always the triangle.
Jeez.
So that immediately knocks your body, mind, and soul into a space of enslavement. Drinking coffee with sugar and milk. That's it. You've locked out 90% of humanity right there. Adults.
Okay.
Wow.
So if people, you can still drink coffee. There's coffee that's ethically raised. You can still put, I put coconut milk in my coffee. I make my coffee performance a ritual. That's how you change it. That's the alchemy of transitioning those slave codes into empowerment. And you're taking something that's meant to keep you enslaved and addicted and docile and not conscious. And now you're drinking it from an act of empowerment, and you're consciously choosing to reject those methods of preparation. There you are, back to the Hawkins scale of consciousness. When you're operating from love or above, you have an impact on 700,000 people energetically surrounding you.
Wow, that many. Wow.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect of your energy, because think about it, as you're in perfect magnetic resonance, every single person you come across, you're the breath of fresh air that somebody crosses on the street.
Oh,
wow.
It's your own moment of resonance that will make them turn their head for a moment. And then they think, you know what? I'm going to do that thing today that I wasn't going to do. That's how you get used as a vessel of consciousness when you choose to operate from those places. Make me a pillar of light. Make me a magnetic resonance so that when I walk down the street, I'm changing the frequency of every person that I walk by. When I grocery shop, I'm changing the flow of the entire grocery store.
Yes.
Everywhere I go, everything I do, that's how I choose to show up. And that's how we change things. I don't have to be a superhero or doing any massive thing. It's the micro adjustment of me just making the conscious choice to always be in that space.
Beautiful.
Wow.
The other layer of it too is like, your energy is so much more powerful than we have been led to believe. So, I've worked with somebody before who was like, I got a 20-pound, 10-pound bag of coffee. I don't want to waste it. Like, you can hold your hands over that and send your intention and energy and say, like, I choose to consume this for my highest good. I am so sorry for whatever suffering is attached to these and has, but I ask that this be, transmuted and turned into my height. Like, everybody thinks that's hokey and woo-woo.
I love that. I honestly think that's the best thing that you can do, is to take your own energetic intentions and to transmute that before consuming it, and at least so you can heal the trauma of whatever it is you're trying to fix. And I love what you said earlier about you've turned making coffee into a ritual. I'm curious to know what you meant by that, because when I make his coffee in the mornings, well, it's technically afternoon, but anyway, for him to go to work, every time I'm stirring it in my head, I don't even know if I've ever told you this before, but I say, stirring in good intentions for the day, make all his problems go away. And I'm sitting there like a little witch, and I'm like making his coffee with love, like but yeah, I'm serious. I'm like, make all his problems go away, just like stirring it in. So as he's drinking it, he's getting like my good vibes. That's how I thought about it anyway.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I drank my first cup of coffee from start to finish hot during 2020, like when lockdowns happened. And I thought, I don't ever want to be rushed with my morning coffee. I need this to be part of my, like, what I'm, so I turned that whole just into a ritual. And I think I'm a big fan of Dr. Emoto.
Yes.
Dr.
We
Masaru
talk
Emoto.
about him so much. Synchronicities, right?
Right. So I had been a teacher for 15 years, and I did this experiment with my students multiple times.
You were a science teacher too?
I actually ran the education program at an art museum in
Wow.
Massachusetts.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I worked at, I would do that just as a, art, connecting kids with their creative, being an artist and being a scientist are very along the same trajectory. The scientific method is kind of what artists go through as they're working out their own process, right? So I would do things to get children into a place of making observation. And so we would plant seedlings, all the same variety of plant, put them in the same window. And then we would all hold a jug of water, and I would have them sing songs to it. We would be silly. We would feed this water with love. So we had one jar of water that was our love jar.
I'm so here for this. Go ahead.
And we would water the seedlings with the love jar. And then we would hold the other jar, and I would make them think of somebody who had bullied them, or a time where they felt disempowered, or if anybody had ever made them feel stupid. And we would say words that hurt us, words that we weren't supposed to, and we would sometimes yell into the water. And this was our angry water.
Okay.
And we would water the other ones with the angry. And every time I have ever done this, the love watered plants thrive, and the angry watered plants either grow distorted, they have a lot of browning on their leaves, or they really don't thrive at all. Yeah. And this is a good visual aid for children to see, because if plants are that affected by it, imagine your own body made of so much water. What does that now look like? So this makes children they've not yet been tainted by the cynicism of these things. So they really can take that and run with it. And they know I shouldn't use negative self-talk because I'm watering my own plant with the angry water there.
Oh, man.
And so being able to show them that in a tangible way, there it is.
I love everything, every syllable that you just uttered out of your mouth, because I'm a teacher too. And on the show, we talk about Dr. Emoto all the time, and the consciousness of water and how we're made of water. So your thoughts and your words affect yourself, and your cells look at you like you're God. So you best give them some good words to go off of. And, apologies to the plants that we gave that bad water to. It was a lesson to be learned for the greater good. So apologies to those plants. But, hey, we're all here learning lessons, right? I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I just want to tell a quick story. The last time that I had an interaction with the police, I was out on our reservoir, my city's water supply, with my friend. We brought our sound bowls out to play on the ice to send healing into our city water supply. We're singing.
You're so fucking amazing. I'm sorry.
I love that.
I'm sorry. I just really love that.
Cool. Yeah.
We drew a big mandala around ourselves in the snow, and then we set up our bowls, and we're out there playing, and we see the police drive by, right? It's very open. It's like a lake, except it's our city water supply. So we see them drive by the first time, and I'm like, do you think that was for us? And so they come back by a second time. We're right out in the middle. Our bowl holders are bright purple, but we ducked and hid behind our bowl holders as though they're not going to see us out there. And they got the megaphone and said, "You need to come off the ice, ladies." So we got to pack up our bowls and we walk off, and they're waiting for us. And he's like, "You can't be out on the ice. What are you doing out there?" I was like, "I'm so sorry. We're sending love, and there's sound bowls, and we're singing to the water, and we want to, And he's like, "That's really beautiful, but you can't be out there because those sound bowls could crack the ice, and then we got to call 911, and you ladies are out in the middle of the reservoir, so maybe do it from the sidelines from now on. That's really beautiful that you would do that, but you can't be out here." So yeah, he made us pack it up and go.
That could have went a whole different way. I honestly thought you were going to say that he called you a bunch of hippies and gave you some drug tests or calling it else. I think it's cool that he was like, that's beautiful, but don't do it where we have to like rescue you.
No, he said he drove by and heard weird sounds and then came back by and was like, what the hell are they doing? And called backup. And
Oh my goodness.
That's really amazing that you guys would do that in the first place. So thank you.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's cool. That's a funny story for sure.
yeah, I'm a big fan of vigilante, like, but on the other side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're a rebel light worker. I'm getting those vibes from you.
Yeah.
You're giving rebel, but you're also giving like, I'm here for a purpose and it's light. So
yeah.
That's awesome. Do our audience a favor, please. I think you already mentioned your website once, but I just want to make sure we get it in there officially. Drop your links, tell them where they could find you, and let them know what kind of services you offer and maybe some upcoming exciting things you're looking forward to.
Okay, so I, again, work at a healing center called Optimal Healing, and our website, oh my gosh, is, holy cow, I should know this. It's if you put in Optimal Healing, it should come up.
I'll have the link in the video description box below.
LLC, yeah. So I am the director of community engagement and spiritual development at that facility. We're in the process of really kind of expanding the programming that we're offering. So I do a sound bath every month, the Tuesday of the full moon. And that's just kind of like an integrative thing. I oftentimes will go live on TikTok afterwards just because I'm in that state. And then we, I just do a continued version of it there. We do a drum circle on the Tuesday of the new moon. So it's kind of like we're countering the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I have for years been running a community dinner once a month. We're kind of shifting that and doing it like downtown in our outside. So, but we're going to start doing retreats, monthly retreats. So that's really exciting for me to be able to engage with people. I have people from TikTok that have done classes with me over the last 2 years, but this will be a time where if people want to come and actually stay on site in North Adams, we have, it's an Airbnb right on our property. So that sleeps several people. So once a month we'll do a retreat. It's going to be all kinds of different varieties of things. I mean, in the work that I do, I'm really deeply about connecting people back to the natural world. A lot of the work that I do on TikTok is being in the middle of the forest, and all of a sudden I feel compelled to go live, and I will just go live in the middle of the woods because there are people who cannot be in the forest.
Sure.
We have an innate fear of the forest too. Like this got put in during like fairy tales, and the big bad wolf is somehow in the forest, because if you are in the forest and you're far enough away from the vibrational frequency and the magnetic resonance of all the other humans, the forest will always override anything that humans are doing. If we leave here, like if you ever saw the movie, what is it? Will Smith was in it. I Am Legend.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I love that movie.
Right? The forest just takes over the city.
Yes.
Like in a matter of 30 years, the forest would take back over, because that's what the forest is encoded to do.
Yeah.
When you can get in that presence of that primal elemental consciousness, it kind of overrides the city of your own being, right? You've been developed upon by man, but how can you let the forest creep back in? So that is like the meditations that I do while I'm on TikTok is from a place of awareness that people are not going into the forest. And if they do, they're going with a friend and they're having conversations. But to be alone in the forest is like going into the depths of your own consciousness.
Mm.
And we can kind of mimic those journeys by being in a conscious present state in the forest, by connecting with your primal senses. It overrides any of the cellular damage that happens from being inundated by all the man-made stuff. So when you are looking with your eyes at the forest, we have more green than any other color, right? So when you can see real green, that connects you to your heart chakra.
Yeah.
Your heart chakra is the green. The moment that you were conceived, there was a flash of green light. That's your life force. That's your unique green soul star color is found in the forest. The moment that you see that when you're looking at a piece of moss and it catches your eye, there it is. That's you connecting with your soul seed and your presence on this planet. So when we're not looking at pixelated images and we can take in the full visual spectrum, it really does change the neural pathways of our brain, even if only for that experience. But again, it's like snow plowing through a pathway that's been blocked. Now you have access to that again. Just from that singular incident of me just bringing you through a guided meditation to connect with the color green of your heart. Now your heart starts seeking it.
That's
right?
beautiful,
But yeah.
I saw one of your videos the other day where you were in the forest and you were talking about birds singing and how birds only sing when there's not predators around. So for us to hear birds singing, that essentially means innately we are safe. And that really resonated with me.
I wandered into the forest one day when we were doing like a walk, and I realized like how alive I felt in the midst of just listening to everything be alive. Like the birds don't really have an agenda right now other than to sing. They're just singing. Their nests are already built, their babies just hatched, they're probably fed, so they're just hanging out in the sunlight singing. When you hear birdsong, this hits a primal part of the brain that lets you know the forest is safe. Birds don't sing unless there are no predators around. So this is a primal sound that regulates the nervous system. And I realized that all of these things that the medications were supposed to do for me, the forest did for free. This is just some food for thought for any of you who have been on the antidepressant train or are taking medications for psychological issues. There's another way.
Yes, and that's a huge thing to do with children who have experienced PTSD, kids who have traumatic home lives, exposing them to birdsong while they're around a safe adult just lets them know that there are safe places in the world again. We're not going to save all of the children, but playing birdsong in your classroom every once in a while does, like, there is something that opens up in them.
Yeah.
Even if you can't take them into the forest, just playing it while they're doing creative writing or as a background sound, their primal senses connect with that, and there is something that happens there.
I love your, just whatever work you've done with children. I can tell just by how you speak, the thought that you put behind, like giving them something really to root themselves. And I just think that's great. And it sounds like you've done that in the past.
Yeah. So I ran the education program at Mass MoCA. It's the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art. We had a children's gallery there called Kid Space. I started working there in 2004 as I was going back to school to get my teaching license. And I decided I didn't want to be a traditional teacher. I wanted to be the joy in children's lives. I had a child once tell me that if Mary Poppins and Willy Wonka had a baby, that would have been it. And that was the biggest compliment I've ever been given.
Especially from a kid, because they are brutally honest.
Yeah. So I was like, I kind of worked that out for a moment. I was like, yeah, all right, I like that. I'm going to roll with that. So I realized in taking that job that I had the responsibility to be the joy in children's lives. So I wanted to be that eccentric, over-the-top person who was going to be greeting them in these experiences. And I worked with the same population of children in my community in North Adams for 10 years. So I watched an entire generation of children go from kindergarten to college.
Wow.
And it was a sublime privilege for me to connect them to artists who work with like really weird materials. And also we got to be the people who were tackling really complex things that schools were not talking about. So, for example, we did an exhibit about the ocean because I really wanted to connect kids with the awareness of like how much waste we create. So we had somebody who
that gives me so much anxiety just thinking about it.
Right. So like they're just the water bottles and all the shit that we make. So the Pacific Garbage Patch, if you're not familiar with that, is like its own floating entity,
It's
right?
a
So
garbage
we had
island,
an artist.
right?
Yeah, we had an artist who goes out and collects garbage from the garbage patch and then remakes stuff with it. But and that we had many different artists because we were really just connecting kids with the connection of the ocean. And but my point with them that I wanted to do was like
awareness, like conscious, living.
Yeah, like it's not just a water bottle when it lands on the ground. Like a lot of those end up in the ocean. And so we were like traveling the pathway of that. But I would get into like these brainstorming conversations with these kids. And one of them, he was young, he was probably like 12 years old, said, well, if water bottles are made out of petroleum and petroleum is how we're powering our cars, don't you think that at some point in time we're going to be able to extract that garbage, break it back down to its like chemical petroleum and use that as fuel? I was like, well, there you go. One of you are going to be an innovative thinker and think, wow, all of this plastic garbage is petroleum based. How do we reclaim this as fuel? How do we reclaim it? And so it's not releasing more toxicity into the world, but rather look at this garbage as a resource.
I love that you're facilitating that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And that really, I think it's really just planting those seed points in the kids who are going to be the innovators. That really is it. It's just like that one dandelion seed that busts through the concrete. And that really felt like my mission at Mass Mocha.
I was going to say, with the coffee talk you were talking about earlier, I was thinking how, maybe a few people will change their coffee practices and choose more consciously on that. But just think if everybody, made conscious choices to not support or give their money to certain, brands and these, corporations who
industries and as a whole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like things would change in an instant if people took conscious action on where they spent their money, and it would be amazing. And maybe we're slowly getting there. People are becoming more conscious. I see that happening. But I
think so. I feel like it's gonna happen in waves. And I call myself a radical hope fiend. I have been since, I know that there is a point in time in my own human journey where we're going to live in a much more unified existence.
Yay.
And I don't know what that looks like, but I know in having been to the other side, having already died, and I was dead for 3 minutes, just to backtrack on that. There was a glimpse into me being an old woman, and there were many children sitting at my feet, and I was telling them stories, and that we were living in a very functional, loving, supportive community.
Yay.
And that's the seed thread that I hold on to in the awareness of like, that's what I'm striving towards. Whatever that means, however we get there, is I believe that we're here to build community. The word community is an invitation. Come unity.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's got chills again. That's awesome. I never thought about that word.
Yeah. So as we're in a state of our own unity consciousness, we create that magnetic resonance to attract other people who are in our same alignment. This is 528 hertz. If I had one next to me and I banged this one would start vibrating.
Yeah.
So as we are in our own unity consciousness, we become the invitation. Come unity. Be with me together, and let's just joyfully share a meal or dance together or be the resistance simply by being joyful. Adults have a difficult time holding the vibration of joy. Joy shows up in our solar plexus. We hold a lot of angst in that space. We can only hold joy for so long. It's like a hot potato in our hands. Children, they can hold joy for forever. So how do we reclaim our ability to be in a space of childlike joy with our adult wisdom? And that's like something that I really try to work for, is to get people to open their eyes to be in a space of being open to awe and wonder. What do you mean you just go to your job and you come home and you put on Netflix and you drink a beer and then you go to bed and you do it all over again the next day? How the fuck?
I was guilty of that for so long. God.
Yeah, right. But like these are the default cycles that we get into. So just that moment of invitation to say, look at the eyes again through your childlike lens of awe and wonder. Where is your curiosity? Are you even curious anymore? What piques your interest? How do you start exploring that avenue? And that, I think, is where where shifting is gonna take place.
Amazing.
Yes, there might be some doom and gloom and some destruction to get to that point, but I genuinely believe that so many people are in that heightened frequency that are living from love and above, that we're all kind of pulsing and the planet is pulsing along with it. And that's a collective journey we're all having together.
Oh man.
Well, thank you for planting seeds since you've had your near-death experience. I feel like you planted quite a lot of seeds. So and we're doing the same thing here by having you on the show. So yeah, it's been a great discussion, and hopefully the viewers.
They're gonna eat this up.
Oh,
sure.
I'm eating this up.
I know. I mean, and I feel like you might have already done this, but can you ask her your famous question? I feel like she probably just already answered it, but I want to see her answer.
All right. Okay. So, Shannon, what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
I mean, that would really be it, is the unification of the human story. It's like really transcending beyond our sense of color, our sense of nationality, our sense of race, our sense of, and just, we are human beings.
Yeah.
And like, I wish we could be human together. And that really would be it.
I love that so much. I'm so impressed by you. It's like I've had so many mind revelations throughout this conversation. Like I can't wait to go back and rewatch this myself, and I'm sitting here present for it. So like,
I wish we lived, closer to the Northeast. So,
Oh, you just made me think of a question I had earlier. Are you able to work with clients online, or is it in person only?
Yeah, my website is 24caratalchemy.com, but it's not really working right now. So if anybody wanted to work with me distance-wise, you could book a session through me on our website, and we'll work it out where we would be doing it on Zoom. Distance healing is the same. You can access somebody's frequency and their cellular consciousness the same way that we are right here.
Excellent.
I like working with people one-on-one. I like being able to have the conversation and make eye contact and just be in each other's energy. But all of this, I think that's one of the most beautiful things that the internet has provided for us, is the ability to expand and connect with people on such a much more quantum level, like for all over the planet.
Even more of an expanded community,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. So yes, I can work with people.
Awesome.
Distant.
And I will have the links to your website displayed on the screen and in the video description box below, and your TikTok. Make sure people go check that out. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm literally blown away, here for all of it. Is there any last pieces of advice or words of wisdom you want to drop on our audience before we close out?
Really just like that, for me always is the piece of like, the most important thing is to get in peace with your own being. Get that your body, mind, and soul all on the same page together. The minute that we step out of being at war with ourselves, that opens up a whole world of possibility for us. So that's really the greatest battle that most people are facing. And that is a light year into new healing, just to be in that place of equilibrium and alignment. So.
Man, this is awesome. Shannon, thank you so much for your time and for everything you just did. I'm really blown away. It's not often I'm sitting here like trying to struggle with how to close out, but I'm struggling with how to close out. Like,
I appreciate that.
I've had my mind blown so many times.
Oh, I love that. I appreciate that you have allowed me this time to speak. I'm really looking forward to finishing writing my book, because I think that it it just has a lot of everything that I wish that I could say all at once, but I'm just trying to like weave it together and make it a digestible access to, like, the book is really focusing on how all those trauma codes and the slave codes come into our story and how we can simply disintegrate them so that they're not causing us dis-ease, but so we're transmuting, like the act of alchemy is transmuting pain into power. So when we can be our own elemental alchemists and connect with all of those elements from a place of intention, I think that these simple methods really are monumental.
Hey, listen.
And I've had monumental healing in my own body. And so I think that having my own lived experience of, you know, that was just one story. Like I've had many, many, many other things happen. And in having a lot of miraculous healing in my own body, I know it's possible. So
amazing. Listen, when your book comes out, you have an open invitation to come back on our show. Mikasa Sukasa, you got a spot.
Awesome.
Okay. No, I'm being very serious. Like,
no, I would love to come back. It's called On the Altar of Scissors. And,
it has a title already. Okay.
I know. Is there
an anticipated release date, or are you still working on that?
I'm still working on that. My goal was to have it finished and get it. I'm just going to publish on Amazon. I wanted to do that by December 1st, so that if that could become a Christmassy thing for people who like to buy stuff for people. So, but
hint. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's my objective and goal, and I'm going to try and hold myself accountable to it now that I've thrown it out there into the ether. So yeah, but I would love to come back on and talk about that. We didn't even get into aliens.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah, and we do a weekly show on alien disclosure.
Right.
You know?
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'd love to chat again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And for our audience, while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button. Click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word.
All right.
Much love, peace, and namaste.
Thank you.